Have you, at any point, asked why Europe, when a predominant financial force to be reckoned with, has fallen behind the remainder of the world? In the beyond 20 years, something has happened to Europe, and it's not pretty. Only 15 out of the 100 biggest global companies are European in 2021, down from 41 in 2000. That's a significant decline in just 2 decades. So, what went wrong? And how did Europe lose its edge and its ability to innovate? And more importantly, is there still time to change it? Or is Europe really destined to become completely economically irrelevant? In this video, we'll dive deep into the factors behind Europe's economic decline and explore whether there is any hope for the future. But first, let's take a look at the shocking statistics that reveal the dark side of Europe's economic system. Get ready to be surprised. Europe became an economic power in the 18th century due to the Industrial Revolution. In just a few decades, small workshops turned into massive factories using machines, steam engines, and mechanical tools, which made everything faster, better, and more productive. By then, the European economy got taken going, stretching out beyond the remainder of the world, and it just got quicker and quicker. More inventions followed, and that meant more money and a better military, leading to European colonialism. Throughout the 19th century, Europe became rich, not because of colonialism, but because it was rich, which allowed it to colonize most of Asia and Africa, and that, in turn, made it even richer. After World War II, the European portion of the worldwide gross domestic product began to go down, and as the European portion of the world's economy is getting more modest, the once predominant mainland is turning out to be less and less important. Today, Europe is in such a kind of financial discomfort that it just can't have the option to escape. The largest European companies have been failing to keep up with their global competitors, with many of the largest European companies simply in the wrong industries. The American top 10 is filled with tech and retail, while the top 10 in Europe is filled with oil and gas and car manufacturers. 2 sectors that are going to be massively transformed by the global move towards sustainable resources. Innovation tends to happen when there are no major obstacles in its way, and studies show that one of the big obstacles to innovation is too much regulation. Europe happens to be a so-called regulatory power, usually the first in the world to regulate anything, and the rest of the world usually follows much later and often adopts European standards. Too much regulation can reduce the ability of companies to do business, decrease competition and investments, and generally slow down the whole economy. In recent decades, both the EU and the individual European countries have been regulating more than anyone else. Every nation actually has its own extraordinary arrangement of guidelines, rules, allows, and licenses that organizations need to consent to when they believe they should carry on with work there. That makes it harder, slower, and more costly for organizations to extend from one European country to the remainder of the mainland, contrasted, and the US. It also means that most competition in Europe happens within each country, but not as much across the whole continent. Europe requires to lessen in the administrative weight on organizations, eliminate boundaries to cross-line exchange and venture, and cultivate a climate that energizes development and business. If it doesn't, it risks becoming irrelevant on the global stage. The second justification for why Europe has lost its capacity to enhance is connected with the absence of interest in innovative work. As per the European Commission, Europe puts around 2% of its gross domestic product into innovative work, which is essentially lower than the US and Japan, the two of which put around 3% of their gross domestic product into research and development. Furthermore, this absence of speculation isn't simply an issue for the European economy today. Yet, it likewise places Europe in a difficult spot in the long haul. Without investment in new technologies and innovation, Europe risks falling even further behind its global competitors. To exacerbate the situation, the European schooling system is likewise battling to deliver the sort of gifted labor force that is important to drive advancement. While Europe has a portion of the world's best colleges, the nature of schooling shifts broadly across the landmass. Besides, the absence of coordination among European nations implies that the school systems are not generally lined up with the requirements of the economy. This can make it hard for the European organizations to find the ability they need to around the world contend. So, what can be done to reverse this trend and help Europe regain its economic edge? One key step will be to reduce the regulatory burden on businesses. While guidelines are important to safeguard purchasers and the climate, the inordinate guidelines can smother development and make it harder for organizations to contend. The European Association has perceived this issue and has sent off drivers to decrease guidelines. Yet more should be finished to make it simpler for organizations to work across borders. Another significant step is to put more into innovative work. The European Commission has proposed expanding interest in research and development to 3% of gross domestic product by 2030, which would be a huge increment from ebb and flow levels. This investment should be targeted toward emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, biotech, and green energy, where Europe has the potential to lead. At long last, Europe needs to further develop its schooling system and guarantee that it is lined up with the requirements of the economy. This implies putting resources into professional preparation and long-lasting learning programs that can assist laborers with fostering the abilities they need to prevail in a quickly evolving economy. Europe is confronting critical monetary difficulties, yet there are steps that can be taken to alter the course. By decreasing the administrative weight on organizations, putting more in innovative work, and further developing the schooling system, Europe can recapture its financial edge and contend on the worldwide stage. Inability to do so chances relegating Europe to monetary immateriality, which would be a misfortune for a mainland that has contributed such a huge amount to the world. Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this.